is here from the A-Team, and welcome to the Wolf Pack.
In this video, I'll be making a song, but with only the Cakewalk stock plugins. Last time I did this with MonsterDAW plugins, and I scuffed it, mainly because they don't make effect plugins. This time, I'm a man of my word. I won't touch a single plugin that isn't a default one. So let me explain the rules of this challenge. The default plugins include, but aren't limited to, the Sonitas and SI packs, TH3, Reverb, ParaQ, and whatever these are. Boost 11 and channel tools are a little tricky since they do come free with Cakewalk, but they're not turned on by default. I wasn't certain if I was allowed to use them, but it's okay since I forgot they even existed while mixing. As for VX64, I didn't bother with it since there's no vocals. Just had to get that out of the way, or some Cakewalk expert would be like, what about VX64? If there's no plugin for a specific function, like low frequency saturation, I just have to suck it up. And I will be including the Pro channel as a default since it's just sitting on the side of the screen for every new producer to see. My goal here was to show newcomers what's in store when they first download Cakewalk, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it's hard, real hard. Unless you plan to download plugins immediately, I would not recommend starting with Cakewalk. Now, without further delay, let's document the entire process of building this song. I decided to do things a little differently this time, composing the song first and then coming back and mixing it all together. Before this, I'd make a demo and mix as I go, but I feel a lot better doing this for electronic songs. I started off with the drums, and right away I was struggling. I'm used to plugins like Monster Drums and MT Power Kit, and once you do that, the stock drums sound awful in comparison. I'm especially not a fan of how flat the kicks sound. I prefer more punchy kicks, but remember, I had to suck it up. My plan here was to use the pianos almost like guitars, setting up a power chord, lead, and bass. It took way longer than I'd like to admit just to find a good chord piano because they all sound relatively the same. My main inspiration was Don't Listen by Jake Neutron. I'm really invested in Amanda the Adventurer now, and this song is part of the reason. The rest wasn't hard. Besides the lead, all I had to do was copy and paste. Though I will say the bass was really lacking some bass. I'll come back later to address that. Reminds me of stuff like Will-O-Wisp. There's either too much or too little bass activity because I didn't know my frequencies. I also added some strings in the background, and can I just say, SI strings is weird. Like, why does the violin start at a high C? Also, the other instruments are trash. Like, does this sound like a synth string to you? Regardless, it could be worse. I was a Soundtrap kid for over 2 years with no mixing skills. With the instruments ready to go, I started building the rest of the song. This B section, I wasn't gonna use the lead, but I changed my mind later, making it complement the chord. Then this weird thing started happening where the end wouldn't move when I transposed it. I had to check the chord to make sure I wasn't going mad. I made it loop actually, giving the bass and lead more to do the second time around. After a second doubled chorus, I made a much slower emotional C section with more drawn out kicks. Eventually I got smart and even made a velocity arc for the hi-hats. Oh, how I've grown. It took forever. Velocity is kind of annoying, but it's worth mastering. And in the last chorus, I transposed it up for the first part and then doubled it again, keeping the second part normal. I kind of like the transition from transpose to normal. It's like a downward staircase. Last second, I thought the transition from C to chorus could use some work and made a short snare solo. And finally, I closed it off with a dramatic finish, using the strings to match with the pianos for once. Had a weird hiccup where the F sharp chord uses C sharp while the lead uses D, making them clash, so I took out the fifth here. And then, the song was composed. The challenge is over. The end.
Thanks for coming to the
Nah, this isn't 2023, I have to actually mix things now, isn't that a pain? The first thing I did was add distortion to the pianos, further treating them like guitars. I remember the days when I used 2 mics in my cabs. Too bad I can't now, Amp Locker doesn't let you. You know, the way the compressor visualizes things is a lot more intuitive than my current one. Too bad the EQ can't visualize things, nor can the Q factor on filters be adjusted properly. I can't tell you how badly I wanted to use TDR Nova just to see the frequencies, not even to mix with, but I refrained. Also, I just checked. There's no bass under 50 Hz to boost. I remember being so confused by reverb that I downloaded a god-awful plugin just to get a reverb. I'm glad I live differently now. 1K is God. You know what else is God? Turning down 1K on background instruments so you can turn them up a little without hurting the mix. While I was doing all this, I noticed an error where the bass in the second part of the chorus doesn't line up with the piano. Good thing I've got more time than I know what to do with, even though I do know what to do with it. I'm a huge fan of this lead guitar synth hybrid sound. This is also the only modulation I'll ever use in this song, so enjoy it. I'm not good with it. Then I got the idea to add a piano to fill in those sub-frequencies. I learned this trick from a metal tutorial where they use a synth bass to complement an electric one. For some reason I thought it went out when I put the reverb on, but when I turned it off and on, nothing changed. I've also started routing similar instruments to their own buses and saturating them recently. Hey, look, I finally found a use for the Pro channel. It's got console and tube saturation. I tried routing each part of the drums to their own track so I can mix them separately under one program, and maybe I'm just bad, but it doesn't seem possible. Anyways, I proceeded to mix the drums using the quad team I've developed recently. Compression, EQ, saturation, and sometimes limiting. But if I didn't end up using Boost 11, how did I create a limiter? I set the ratio on a compressor to infinity. I'm not really sure if that's correct, but I'll roll with it. But my biggest discovery was when I made a bus for every instrument beside the drums. I'd seen this sidechain label on the compressor before, and I was wondering if I could make the drums pop a little more. Turns out I can. If I route the drums to the compressor, I can make it so it only compresses when the drums play. The master was more of the same, compression, EQ, and very light limiting to keep it from crossing the line, though I will say not being able to change the Q factor on the high pass was really frustrating. Finally, I changed both basses to mono, pro tip I learned from an EDM channel. See, this is the kind of challenge I was hoping for with Monster Doll. Something to push my creativity. Something to limit me. Something to learn from. And I learned a lot, from velocity to sidechaining to finally understanding how reverb works. In fact, my discovery led me to check my current compressor and EQ, which also have the sidechain label, and yeah, they can be sidechained. I got a whole separate plugin just for sidechain EQ when I could have been doing this the whole time. But more than anything, this challenge definitely took me back. I remember a time when none of these plugins looked right, and what was this, and that, and all I could think was take me back to Soundtrap. Makes me want to try making a song in Soundtrap or BandLab again, but with actual mixing skills. Let me know if you want to see it. Until then, I'm gonna keep making music, and it's gonna rock. See ya!
Thanks for coming to the party! I really like making content like this, so if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Or at least like the video, because it'll magically let me know. Tune in next Saturday for more, or if you want to watch me on demand, just click the picture above me. See you next time. Bye bye!